Kelly, welcome to the podcast. Can't wait for listeners to hear all about your journey with courses.
Oh, thank you so much, Gina. It's awesome to be here. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, let's start from the beginning. Why a course? Like, where'd the idea first come from for you?
Well, my journey started quite a while ago, and I actually remember talking to you after the first course creation, and you kind of said like, wow, you did it in 6 weeks. And if you had to realize the incubation period way longer than the 6 weeks. So I would say I've been a nurse. I've actually resigned from nursing now, but I'm still a nurse. But I was a nurse for 16 years, and
Wow.
feeling the pressure and the stress in the hospital, I just, was very sensitive, not only to my patients' needs, but also to my nursing colleagues. And I started realizing that my yoga practice was having an impact on how I showed up in the hospital. So my journey actually started wanting to make a difference in the lives of my colleagues. So I ended up starting to teach yoga after work to healthcare professionals, to show them how yoga decreased stress levels. And I was like doing 2 full-time jobs, working my nursing job and then helping my nursing colleagues decrease stress levels and talk to them after work. And people started sharing with me what an impact it was having in their lives. So I wrote a paper just saying, this is what my nursing colleagues are saying. And it ended up in the research director's hands. And she asked to have tea with me one day. And she said, if we put you through the evidence-based practice class at the hospital, would you be willing to do a randomized controlled trial with doctors and nurses and show them that yoga decreases stress levels? And I was all over it because it's my passion to help people feel better. So I did go through a 6-month program. I did put together a randomized controlled trial, which was huge. I had 80 doctors and nurses go through the study.
Yeah.
And we did eventually get published in the Journal of Holistic Nursing. So
Awesome.
yeah, of all that, it's published there, which is divine. And there's an electronic copy as well. So those that want to read it electronically, they can. And the publication, just so you know, was titled Holistic Nursing in Practice, Mindfulness-Based Yoga as an Intervention to Manage Stress and Burnout in Healthcare Professionals. So as a thank you present for me, from the hospital, they gave me a ticket to a convention center conference for nurses. And I got to see somebody on stage. I know this is a really long answer to your question, but I think
keep going. Yeah.
Okay, cool. The essence of it is, for any listeners out there, that life is unfolding according to a divine plan, whether we understand it or not. And I wouldn't have been on Gina's course and got this done in 6 weeks if it hadn't have been for all the opportunities I said yes to before deciding to do the course. So after this talk by an incredible nurse, she got a diagnosis with cancer, was told she had 3 months to live, and she decided no one was going to tell her that she had 3 months, and she was a runner. And so she ran across America from San Diego to Florida in 93 days, showing nurses that, they can take better care of themselves, invited nurses to run along the way with her, but it was also showing what's possible for the human spirit. And I was so inspired by her talk. I approached her afterwards and I said, listen, I'm doing a 6-week randomized controlled trial at the hospital I'm working at. It's nothing compared to what you've just done to inspire nurses to take better care of themselves, inviting them to 3 or 5Ks with you as you're running across America, or as you ran across America. And she just, no, it's not small. What you're doing is still so awesome. And in 2 years' time, I'm going to put a conference together and you're going to come and speak about your study at my conference in Las Vegas. And 2 years later, lo and behold, I got an email from her. We went to speak at the National Nurses Speaker Series in Las Vegas. And then after that, got noticed on stage the year afterwards, because she invited me back the following year, by the American Nurses Association, who asked me to put the very first renewal retreat for nurses together. And all at this time, just so you know, I'm working full-time as a nurse.
Right.
I'm
2 jobs, right?
Yeah, 2 jobs. Yeah. My company, I decided to open my company because after doing the study, people wanted to see me privately. So I named my company Relaxed and Balanced, because everything I do helps people stay relaxed and balanced. And the essence of what I do is help healthy people stay healthy. I was just so inundated with helping people embrace death and dying in the hospital, especially because I was an oncology nurse for 14 years, that this is where I could find my own balance, helping healthy people stay healthy. So I did that. And then it was actually during COVID. So 2020 was when I realized like I couldn't run my retreats, which I was doing for like 24 nurses at a time. And I was not being able to see my private clients because I was actually working the COVID unit as well as the oncology unit, but we all had to do rotations so all nurses could share the weight of being exposed to COVID patients. And I just was feeling like there's got to be more. And I met you initially. So this is, again, one of those divine steps in the process at Amy Porterfield's San Diego event, where she was like, get your course done in a weekend. And you were sitting in the back of the room. She introduced you to all of us. And when she introduced you to us, I took your name down. I remembered it. And I was like, okay, I didn't get my course done in that weekend, but 2020 came and I was like, okay, Gina, you just came into my mind. And that is why I signed up when I did, because I always believe nothing happens before it's time, and time is never late. And I was ready for it. And so for me, signing up for your course in 2020 was my heart wanting to do more, to continue to make a difference. It was feeling I wasn't able to impact the many clients of mine or people that I could because of the circumstances in the world. It was just like we all were shut down. And I had to learn how to do this. And so that was why. So that was, and during 2020, it just, long and short, this study of mine, let me tell you, took 9 years. So when you have a dream and you want to come to fruition, the biggest thing is, I always say to people, make sure you're passionate about what you're doing. And I'm sure as a course creator, you always tell your students, be passionate about what it is. So you have the leverage and you have the tenacity to see it through, and have people that believe in you before you believe in yourself. And that can be challenging too. And there was a lot of, I had a BSN, and there's a lot of people on my study with a master's and a PhD, and I needed their skills and expertise to have that study come to fruition. And everybody's life's busy. Everybody has different things going on. So there was always a delay. There was always something coming up. And I had to be resourceful at the end of it to get somebody else who had a PhD to help tie all the pieces together, to help us get it to the finish line and actually get it published. So that was huge. And I think when I say I'll do something, I'm the kind of person that will see it through, even if it took 9 years. I carried that baby for 9 years. And I think the sense of accomplishment that gave me in May of 2020 when we got published was like, wow, okay, now what's next? But I also can feel like taking so long to finish something could have been a little bit of a holdback, because it does affect your self-esteem. It does affect you personally when it's taking so long. So if I can give anybody advice just on that, is like, be resourceful, get the help that you need to get. Because when I found the person with a PhD as well, who was going to help me get this to the finish line, I mean, all the work was done. We just had to put the bow on it, tie the pieces together and get it published. It was huge. And she's also one of the authors now on the paper, because without her, it wouldn't have been complete. So I like to give credit where credit's due. So anyway, so that was done. And then it was time to sign up for your course. I think it was June of 2020.
Yeah, June of 2020.
And I thought to myself, the message I got from doing this and working with the clients along the way is that what we looked at in the study went way beyond what we were measuring. Yeah. And when people came to me and said it was having an impact in their personal lives, like their relationships were getting better with their husbands or their teenage kids, and then what I was teaching them, they were taking back to the bedside in their nursing careers, it was way beyond what we were looking at. And to me, that was so fulfilling. It filled my heart with joy. And that is why I do what I do. It's to help people heal on a level that's beyond what they think is capable, And so,
okay, this is awesome. Let me break this down a little bit. So for the listeners, because I think a lot of times people think, well, what's my course journey going to look like, right? So, and we're all different, but so it sounds like it's long ago, you had a need or a desire to do this for yourself, right? So that's all it started as. That was your intention, right? Like stressed out, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do yoga, meditation for myself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then you started to get interest. Like people were like, oh, I see Kelly's getting results. I want some of that.
Yes.
Right.
Correct.
And then so it was just a simple intention, but then because it was powerful, because it was unique, because you were getting results, people wanted that.
Correct. Right? And I got feedback from my patients. I had patients say to me, you walk in my room, I feel like you're present with me, but other nurses come in and they feel like on like a hamster in a cage on a wheel. And I realized, what I'm seeing and what I'm feeling is actually true, and people are giving me that feedback. So it made my heart feel even more of a urgency or compelling need to actually fulfill
you had something here, right?
Yeah.
And then did the other nurses say like, hey, like, how did they approach you with that, Kelly? Because like some of my listeners are thinking, well, how do I know if I have the demand, right? How do I know if I have that interest? Like, how did you know?
I can tell you, I didn't know. It was okay. So in the hospital, a lot of nurses get asked to do research studies, but it's not always. I'm a first of all registered nurse, and then once you've got your nursing degree, you can specialize in whatever area you want to specialize. So you can do pediatrics or cardiology or oncology. But I went and got my certification as a holistic nurse. A board certified holistic nurse that worked on the oncology unit. And quite honestly, when I got invited to do this randomized control trial, my manager actually said, let's do it on our unit. And I said, hold on, I don't want to become enemies with my 30 or so colleagues on the unit. I'm not going to force everybody to do yoga if yoga is not their thing. So my idea was, there were 3 hospitals at the time with the hospital I worked at. And I said, what my way of doing this is to open this up to every single hospital, saying, Kelly Hilcove is doing a randomized controlled trial with mindfulness-based yoga. If you're interested in this, please sign up, because there's also criteria. I didn't want them to have a yoga practice already. I also we were doing saliva cortisol tests to measure stress levels and all the rest of it. So I didn't want them having any cortisone in their system. So there was quite a few things we just needed to check if they were able to join as a study participant. And I had an overwhelming response from the 3 hospitals. I had like 250 people want to be on my study.
Wow.
And so, so that's it down to the then 80, I only did 80 to get the results that we needed to show if it was significant or not, which absolutely it proved that, mindfulness-based yoga with healthcare professionals or anyone in a high stress work environment would benefit from having inner serenity, decreased levels of burnout, and just overall well-being. So it was huge. So that was my validation. And
yes, I was just gonna say that was your validation. Like, we talk about course validation all the time, making sure you have an audience and this works, you have a unique solution. What's so cool is that you did your validation to even know it, right? Like, as part of your course.
And so often now that I'm when I go to conferences now and I'm learning from mentors, and they talking about different things, I'm like, wow, you can actually give yourself a pat on the back, Cal, because you said yes, you jumped and you approached that woman at that conference to acknowledge her and buy her book, and then she recognized you and you got invited to do something else, and then you said yes. And so everything, I didn't feel the urge as a nurse to grow in the hospital environment. I never had that impulse to want to become a manager or anything else in the hospital environment. Like, my personal and self-growth has happened in my business, where I've pushed myself when I've been invited to do something that's out of my comfort zone. Then I've said yes, and I figured out how to do it. So with the retreat, even for my own company and for the American Nurses Association, I pushed myself to go to Toastmasters to learn how to do public speaking, so that I was going to be able to deliver even more and better. So it's super.
Love it. That's such a great story. And the fact that you had that validation and you knew you had something here. And then you took the course. You took the first iteration of the 6-week accelerator back in the pandemic. Yes. And what were some of your ahas? Like, do you have some? I think you had some eye openers, right? When you were building
absolutely,
your
100%. I learned more also about myself because I realized I like more one-on-one and more personal attention, and I also like to be held accountable and take on small chunks at a time. I don't like being overwhelmed with too much information, too fast, and figuring I've got to figure it all out. And so I had to take a deep breath and realize baby steps was the way for me. And I really needed someone that had done it before to show me how it's done, and not in a huge group of people, because again, that doesn't work for me. So I think what's so special and unique about your 6-week accelerator program is that you get that individual attention, you get that community, you get that accountability, and also you're only allowing us to focus on bite-sized chunks at a time that's manageable. Like, let's get your course outline done and we can work on that, and then let's get your copy done, and then we'll go ahead and teach you how to do video. And so for me, that was huge, because it was during COVID, you couldn't hire anybody or get support. So I kind of was so impressed with myself that I figured out, okay, what light to buy and how to talk to my camera.
I remember looking at your background, and we were like messing with your background and your lighting and your environment, and we kept shifting around like how you framed your shot. Remember that?
Exactly. And your biggest message to me, I think, was getting it done is better than perfect. And I was also at that point where I felt it has taken me 9 years to get a big project of mine published.
Yeah.
And now my heart was like, you've got this thing published, Kelly. Get it out into the world. And you know what was so special about that? You know, in that when I was doing my very first one after we did that, I had nurses in tears that had COVID and doing it with me from their homes and saying that you've helped me get through COVID. I'm sitting in my room right now. I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have your course right now. So again, that was validation of doing the right thing. And you said, getting it done is better than perfect, Kelly. And I'm such a perfectionist that I've had to let go of that to know that I'm enough and where I'm at right now is enough to offer the world. And I'm going to always continue progressing and improving because that's just me in my core and my nature. If I don't keep learning, I don't have more to offer the clients in front of me. And the deeper I go, the deeper I can help them go. So I just had to take a deep breath and get it done. And it felt amazing to have waited 9 years to get a big project done. And then you helping me get my online course up in 6 weeks. That was
6 weeks.
A miracle. Yeah.
It's funny that you talk about the streamlined process, right? Because that's what I was really going for with the accelerator, because there's so much information out there. And I was just talking to a current student, and she was saying how much she likes that it's just, here, I'm bossing you around. This is what you just need to focus on. Because for her own course, she realized she had so much information. And she was completely overwhelming everyone. And she's like, I need to take half of it out, because that's what we tend to do, right? Especially when we're starting out as course creators, we want to give them everything. And then we realize, okay, what do they really need to know? Because my intention was to get you guys through that in 6 weeks and to this day, right? Yeah. So I love that worked for you. And then tell me, so I love giving you an example. You didn't have a $100,000 launch, but you launched your first course. Right. And then how many students did you welcome? Or do you mind sharing the results?
No, not at all. I mean, I had 24 people in my first 6-week program. Yeah. I think it was like 496, 497. And I actually made, I think, close to 8,000 in my first launch, which was amazing.
Which is amazing. Yes.
Yeah.
It was what I wanted for you. Yes.
Absolutely. And again, obviously I invested, that's not all my profit. I invested a lot in that and learning and getting the support I needed to get it to the finish line. But to be honest, I didn't use any paid ads or marketing. I think all I did was I looked at my camera and was like, if you're watching this right now, if you're a nurse, if you're going through COVID and you're just needing to take care of yourself, this course is for you. I did it very organically. And I just winged it. And the fact that it worked, it was like, wow, I don't even know what I'm doing with the marketing side yet, but what I did was enough. And that it also comes back to who you are in the world pays off, because I had built up the trust factor over the 9 years of working the study and serving my colleagues. And I was teaching yoga in the community every weekend. And so it wasn't just lucky. I had to really
you build up that equity, right?
Yes, exactly. It's like, I've been doing what they're telling us to do all these years, so no wonder I had such a positive response, because I've been loving on these people for all these years, and they love me and they trust me and they like me. And that's how and why I think my first launch was incredibly successful, because of that rapport that I built up, with the people that I served in the community,
100%. They were just waiting for that invite for you, right? So it said, and you are so authentic, right, with what you bring, and you have that connection with them. So of course you make an invite and they respond. So love that. I do want to talk about the certification process, because it comes up for a lot of my students, and I always bring you up. So you did get the course certified. Talk about that a little bit.
I did, absolutely. Because it was inspired from my publication, I didn't do it exactly like that, but it was an inspiration because of my publication, and because I've done so much research behind the importance of self-care for nurses, and I'm a board certified holistic nurse. I thought it's a no-brainer. Nurses have to get CNEs, which are continuing nursing education credit hours. And I thought, it's really cool, because I am a board certified holistic nurse, but I remember when I went to my manager to say, I haven't got my oncology certification, I've got this one. And he was like, is that even legit? And I'm like, yeah. It's so cool that it is now. Thank you. But there's more acknowledgement that there's more than just the physical body, and that we've got to take care of our emotional sides and mental and energetic sides of this incredible being of being human. So what was so cool is that I actually investigated going to the American Holistic Nurses Association and seeing that they do have a certification process. So depending on whatever area, there will be a body to legitimize your course. And so you basically have to download the application process. For me, to get nursing credits, you actually have to be a nurse yourself. So I thought, well, because I am, that's great. You have to have a committee. So I got a friend of mine who was willing to be that part of the committee. And then you have to download the application process and literally fill in like what you're going to be teaching on your course and what it can do. And there's a lot of research and documentation on caregiver role strain and burnout for nurses and compassion fatigue. And the whole premise behind me doing the study and teaching people how to take care of themselves is because if you don't, you can end up burnt out and lose the love of your profession at the end of your nursing career, and that essence of wanting to care and make a difference in people's lives if you don't take care of yourself. And it's now all documented in research that compassion fatigue is out there. So the fact that I could write down and reference articles, and not only that, reference my own article saying, I've actually done this randomized controlled trial and my study has shown that it's significant if we do take care of ourselves and we feel more connected to ourselves and less burnt out and more resilient in times of stress and all the rest of it. And so once you've gone through this huge big application process, then you submit it to the American Holistic Nurses Association, or that was mine, and then they do a peer review check. So they go through everything. It takes about 2 weeks and double check, and if it's not legit, then they send it back, and then they say, how are you going to monitor that people go through the program? And then this is why I love Kajabi, because you can see when they go in and out. Also, it was live when I did it. And so you see who shows up and who does their homework and all the rest of it. So you actually have to document that they're in there for the hours when you're giving credits, and then they get a certificate at the end. So my one actually gave nurses 24 continuing nursing education credit hours for the number of hours that they were with me, with their homework and the practice and everything, which is awesome. And so I think it gave the course a lot of credit too, because nurses are going to have to do some kind of education. And what better than taking care of yourself with yoga and mindfulness and learning how to journal and self-reflect so you can take better care of yourself. And if you do take better care of yourself, you can take even better care of others because you have more energy and more resilience inside, So
that's so great. So I do have course creators who come to me and say, how do I get certified? Like, what would be your advice in terms of, okay, they obviously have to have, do they have to have a study, or do they have to have kind of
not their own study? They can actually do any research out there, and depending what the body that they're wanting to be certified through required. So that's going to be different. So I would do homework and research on who it is they want to be certified for, and who it is they want to give these credits to, and then they've got to investigate what their requirements are. So mine was lucky. I could go to the American Holistic Nurses Association website, go under education, go under courses that you'd like to apply for continuing nursing education credits. You click on that and there's the application. You download it and read all the requirements. So for me, it was pretty straightforward. So I can only speak to that one that I've done.
But you did the point is you did the research, and I think it's social proof, right? What else is like the certification done for your course?
It's given me credit as a nurse, just to say I've gone above and beyond, and I'm not just putting a course out there saying, yoga's amazing. It's actually proven that it significantly reduces our stress levels and burnout, and increases your mindfulness awareness and all the rest of it. So I think when people see that, and especially nurses, where nursing science-based practice, it's just nice to think, oh gosh, I'm going to do something for me, but it's actually impactful, so
love it.
Make a huge difference.
So if you're a coach or you're a consultant, like, think about certifying your course and looking into it and doing the research just like Kelly did, because I do feel like that takes you to another level in terms of where you can take your course.
Correct.
So what is next? So I mentioned in the intro, you're one of my repeat grad. So you came back for the 6-week accelerator the second time, which I love, because you wanted to create a second course after you did the first course. Like, talk about that journey.
Okay, that's been amazing. A lot of my life changed. I mean, I actually decided making an impact in people's lives online was a huge aha for me to say, this is my next level. I've loved my nursing journey. I've cared about people so much, but it's not about helping people embrace death and dying anymore. It's helping people stay happy and healthy, helping healthy people stay happy. And I got very clear on that, and I decided to resign. So in November 2020, I resigned from my nursing career. I'm still a nurse, obviously. I'm still a holistic nurse, and I've actually just got my course, so recertified with the CNE. So any nurse that wants to take it can still get the continuing nursing education credit hours. I'm not just working on the floors anymore. And I actually decided to come back to South Africa to spend more time with my family, and continue with my relaxed and balanced practice, where I help people stay healthy. So I do wellness coaching, help people lose weight and feel better, and hold the space for healing to take place. And it's just been amazing. And recently, I just thought, you know what? Back in 2016, I put together a workshop. It was a 4-week workshop, and Discover Your Peace Within. And it was showing nurses that you don't need a whole hour to do yoga practice, because a lot of people would say, I don't even have an hour. A lot of busy moms or corporate employees would come to me and just say, I don't have that hour. And so I actually came up with 3 to 5 minute breathing, meditation, and yoga practices to show people that all you need is 3 to 5 minutes. If you know which poses to do to wake you up in the morning, or to relax you at night, or to reconnect you with the gift that you are, or which breathing technique re-energizes you or calms you before you go to sleep, or a gentle meditation, you don't need a whole hour. And so that course was so well received back in 2016 that I thought, you know what, it's sitting in a file. And my mindfulness-based yoga course was so well received in 2020, it's time. And that's when I thought, you know what, there's no other better person than Gina to help me get this to the finish line like she did before. And I just needed someone to hold the space for me as much as I can hold the space for healing. You do that for us, for our courses. And so I just thought, this is it. So I signed up, and I took that folder of mine filled with everything I taught in person. Everybody showed up every Saturday for an hour for 4 weeks, and I taught them all the different modules, and I turned that workshop actually into an online course. So
I love that you turned an old workshop that you thought that you had the idea, because you already had this content, again, validated. Yes. And you're like, hey, I could just turn this into a course. How many of us out there have workshops or stuff that we've been teaching, right?
Yep. And I had all the testimonials and from my evaluations in that file. And so I literally, if you look at the sales page for that course, which is like currently in my Instagram bio, so if anyone wants to check it out, you click on that and you'll see like all the testimonials.
What's your Instagram? Tell us your Instagram real quick, Kelly.
Right now it's Kelly Hilcove for that one, and my company is Relaxed and Balanced. So
we'll list both in the show notes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and my Kelly Hilcove has the new course, which is the Discover Your Peace Within, with 3 to 5 minute breathing, yoga, meditation practices. And the Relaxed and Balanced one has the link for the mindfulness-based course for nurses. And quickly to elaborate on that, I've also had colleagues, not colleagues, but friends of mine who weren't nurses that were like, oh, come on, you can't just have it for nurses. So I've actually kind of changed it a bit for anybody as well. So there's a link out there. If you're not a nurse and you don't need the credit hours and all the rest of it, you just want to direct message me, and I can send you the link for the course based, inspired by the research.
You don't have to be a nurse.
You don't have to be a nurse to do it. Correct. So I've actually done 2. So one specifically for nurses to get the credit hours, one's for anybody. So there's 2 versions of that course now. And then the new one is actually, I haven't actually gone to the extent of getting credit hours. I thought, this one I wanted to be an evergreen, but I don't have to show up for it. And I've just gone, I have made it better, because I've actually gone and composed music behind my voice, which now enhances the whole journey for the listener. So it's an experience. I think people are going to actually do the course just to listen to the music, because it sounds so beautiful.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
I was blown away. Yeah.
Do you have a sample? If I DM'd you, you can have a sample of that. Is that right? Like if
yes, if you direct message me, I'll be happy to give you a little sample of that one. But it is phenomenal. I was like in tears, feeling the impact, because my voice was doing it anyway, but then putting the music and composing the music with my composer, it was just like, wow. Oh my gosh, it literally touched my heart, my body, my soul. And I was like, I'm so glad I followed my gut instinct to make this better. But that's what you said, getting it done is better than perfect. And once you've got it done, you can always go back and make improvements. You can always, it will be a never ending journey for those perfectionists of, out there. And so you've also just got to be like, but because it was so long ago, I thought, get the nuts and bolts down and then trust that inner guidance. And it was actually here in Cape Town, because it wasn't during COVID, I didn't have to do it all myself. I went to a recording studio to get my voice done properly. And the guy said, you know what, we should consider putting music behind your voice. And I was like, not a bad idea. And then I ran with that idea and got a friend of mine to do it. And so it's been an amazing journey again, but I wouldn't have had anything to work with unless I started. You know what I mean? Like,
unless you just gone for it.
Join you. Exactly.
And 2 points here. One, for your audience that you're now offering that course to, and it doesn't have to be a nurse, right? So you started with a niche. Yes. And then now it's forever. So we talk about that. I talk about that all the time. Like, you could expand beyond once you've released that course. And then secondly, you're right. I keep saying done is better than perfect. And then you can augment, and look at you changing up the process. Now you're doing the words to music. So that's just so powerful. Like, that's what happens when you keep doing your courses, right? It's an iterative process. Love it.
Yeah. And I just want to mention, like, the old course is still out there. So anybody who clicks on Kelly Hilcove with that old course, you're getting it at the old price, because once I've updated it, I actually feel the value is so much more now than what that is. Anyone who's bought that one will get the updates. But the other thing that I've just realized lately is I can actually take all these pieces and make different courses out of it. If someone just wants the yoga or just the meditation or just the breathing, like, say somebody doesn't want to do yoga, they just listen to the meditation and breathing, that could be one part and then another part and then an upsell. So my mind now is like, oh my gosh, there's actually more here, more
to play with, so much to play with.
Yeah. Exactly.
Kelly, this has been so fun. You have learned so much as a course creator. You're already a smart cookie, as we know, but all the ways that you have become an incredible entrepreneur, I'm so proud of you. Like, you are incredible what you're doing with your courses. Thank you for coming by and talking about your adventures with courses.
Thank you so much, Gina. And thanks for being such an inspiration to me as well. And there's still a lot more I have to learn. By no means do I know.
I know. Then we'll have you back. We'll have you back on the podcast.
Exactly.
I'll have you back for the next round. And make sure you're checking out Kelly at Kelly. We'll list all of this in the show notes and your different courses, so you could see how Kelly has kind of evolved your courses over time. So thanks again for coming by.
Thank you so much, Gina. It's been an absolute pleasure.